Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. I am Daryl Grove and I'm joined by a man who still says 1999 was the greatest Champions League comeback of all time. It's Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello, I do indeed.
Do you really? I was kind of joking with the intro.
It's probably, I think somehow it's more dramatic, but Barcelona's is probably the better comeback overall.
Definitely.
Since it's never happened before.
Yeah, numerically it's the biggest comeback of all time. So if you have been sort of unable to watch a television or read the news or anything in the last, 24 hours, here's what's happened. Barcelona hosted PSG in the round of 16 second leg. They were 4-0 down. It was mission impossible. They won 6-1 and went through to the quarterfinals.
They did, and I actually already want to revise my statement, because I don't think Man United's finish in '99 was crazier or more dramatic. It's just Barcelona's was so insane that it doesn't even it seems like it's just on a different level. It's a different world than that comeback in '99.
Here's how sort of unlikely it was. For example, we came into the office yesterday. We knew we had a set amount of time to watch one Champions League game and then record a review show because I had an indoor game I had to get to. We couldn't watch both of them, right? We chose Christian Pulisic and Borussia Dortmund against Benfica because Borussia Dortmund were 1-0 down, so there's a comeback that's very possible there, and they're at home. B, Christian Pulisic plays for Borussia Dortmund, so it's a very heavy American angle. And 3, no one comes back from 4-0 down, not even Barcelona. Right?
Did you just go B to 3? Because I hope so.
Kind of deliberately.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I mean, and I think we felt justified because at halftime it's 2-0, then Barcelona get another one, and we'll go into the goals in a sec.
It was
3-0, and we're like this. And I think I'm going to take a little bit of I'm going to boast a little bit here. And I think when you came into the office yesterday, and I said I feel like Barcelona might do this. I just think it's crazy enough.
Before 2:45 Eastern, you were saying this?
Yes.
Or after Suarez had scored early?
Before 2:45 Eastern, before kickoff, because we were watching the U.S. women's replay at that point.
Yes, we were.
But it gets to 3-0. You feel like it's going to happen. Then Cavani scores, and it's 3-1. And even to the extent that in the 83rd minute, you had the announcers completely eulogizing Barcelona. Well, now they'll have to turn to La Liga, and we'll see what happens. But it's heroic effort, and PSG now they'll write blah blah blah. And then all of a sudden, to the point that we were both cringing. Of like, guys, stop, things are going to happen. Just stop.
And so we're going to get into it on this episode. We obviously watched it this morning. We're going to focus a whole show on the tactics, the goals, the heroes, the villains, the legends, the losers. There's so many different things.
So many words.
So many words. But I do want to just mention that the idea that we did get to actually see this live, right? Because not live like we're at the camp now, but we got to see the final comeback happen because we flicked over after the end of the Dortmund game and watched basically the last 6 minutes. I think as we flicked over, Barcelona had just won that penalty kick for the 5th goal. Yeah, so we at least got the excitement there. So it's not so bad. It's not all bad.
It's not all bad at all.
Today we've got the full review where we've paid a lot of attention. You ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Okay. I'll add this, that it was so crazy that when we flipped over from Dortmund winning, they were still reporting it as 3-1 Barcelona, and we switched over was when Neymar was about to take the penalty to put it up to 5-1. So yeah.
So let's go back to the very beginning, maybe. Okay, so you're Barcelona, you're Luis Enrique, the coach. You come into this game, you know that you got to get a lot of goals at home, right? You're PSG, you're Unai Emery. You come in, you know that all you've got to do is get through this game and not concede 4 goals without scoring.
And it then becomes like what seemed to be very obvious tactics, but I think were probably the wrong tactics for one and the right for the other, which is let's set up to attack a whole lot and get a lot of chances. And for Unai Emery and PSG, let's set up to defend a whole bunch, put a bunch of people behind the ball, put 11 men behind the ball, and we'll just kind of see it out.
So there's going to be a lot. I think there'll be a bit of talk in this show about what PSG did wrong, both on a tactical level and on an individual error kind of level. And I think I'll make the argument maybe that the two are intertwined in so much, like one causes the other. But we've got to give credit to Barcelona for taking the right approach to this game.
We do, and I think obviously that starts with Luis Enrique. And I'm going to make the claim, and maybe others have, I haven't seen it, that I think this result happens because Luis Enrique has announced that he's not coming back to Barcelona. Because it reminds me of when, I think Jon Stewart was once asked who his favorite political candidate was for whatever presidential race it was. And I think he said Herman Cain, because the person with the least chance is the one who's most capable of speaking freely.
Famously, Herman Cain is now president?
Yeah, right? But I think you look at this, and Luis Enrique kind of the pressure's off, because if he says, no, I want to keep my job, I'm trying to stay, trying to hold on to it, then it becomes, well, you got to earn it, you got to prove it. And maybe he doesn't have that sort of freedom of like, well, I'm out of here no matter what, so let's just go have fun.
So he could go for it, and they could lose 4-0 again.
Yep.
He's in a no worse situation.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
How does that translate into what Barcelona tried to do on the field?
Sure.
Then?
Okay. It starts with the fact that this formation is not one that you can easily label, because I'd say you've got a back three, that much is clear. Then you've got like Sergio Busquets in front of the back three. You've got Neymar and Rafinha out wide, but it's almost like a 3-1 wide 2-2-2, because then you've got Iniesta, Rakitic, you've got Suarez and Messi.
Yep. And then on top of that, you've got the back three. Theoretically, they're your defenders, but every time they had the
big
ball,
old theoretically,
they were like 10 or 15 yards into PSG's half.
At least.
And I think the big thing we noticed is that when we've watched Barcelona play for many, many years now, and under different coaches and different styles, they are usually very careful with the ball, right? They will have possession, like more so maybe under Guardiola back in 2000 or whatever. They will have possession, and they will slowly play the safe pass every time, keep possession, work you until they find an opening.
Right.
I think this game, they took a lot more risks with their passes. They were happy to force almost silly passes and shoot from distance when it wasn't really on, but really just to try and constantly force it.
And I think that is a very gutsy tactic that definitely worked. But I want to talk more about Barcelona, but I think at this point I'm going to transition a little bit to PSG, because I think that tactic only works because Unai Emery set this team up so poorly.
So from the very, very, very start, you see PSG essentially in a 4-5-1, right? But really, it's the back four is way deep inside their own area.
Yep.
Then the 5 midfielders are like at the top of the box. And then Edinson Cavani is maybe, 3 yards ahead of them. They're just immediately in the sort of... It's as if they were 1-0 up and it was the 90th minute.
Yep.
Except they're 4-0 up and it's the 0 minute. And they're taking the game like that.
And
I went
know
to emergency defensive measures from the start.
Yes, and there are teams out there that historically, play defensive, can do that. They have the discipline. They have that sort of what's the word I'm looking for here? Like just kind of determination and like raw ability to kind of see out that performance.
Testicular fortitude.
And there we go. And this felt much more. It's just gutsiness. And in this situation, it felt much more like PSG had this idea: we'll be very defensive, we'll frustrate Barcelona, and then we'll break on the counter.
Yeah.
And instead, it just felt like they invited Barcelona in, maybe expecting them to be that sort of like pass the ball around, be patient, pick your spots, which maybe they would have been if Luis Enrique felt that pressure. But because he doesn't, they can go all out. And as a result, it felt from the first few seconds that PSG were sort of like, oh no, like what do we do now? And they were just scrambling.
So it was like panicky defending. I mean, that's evident in many of the goals, which we'll get to the details on. And then even when they tried to break, which definitely was the plan, right? Maybe we'll catch her on the counter, they got an away goal and it was good, except it wasn't. Even when they tried to break, Barcelona put a stop to it really fast, because PSG never broke with confidence, right? So, and then Barca would press immediately, the classic like counter press, right? Win the ball back high, and Barcelona would go again. It was just constant, relentless pressure and attack from Barcelona.
And one of the more famous stats that I think will come out of this that I talked about on Goalmouth is that from the 85th minute on, I believe, or 87th minute on, like PSG only completed 4 passes, 3 of which were from restarts after goals had been scored. But that wasn't
cleared it long.
But that wasn't really But that wasn't really an outlier. I felt like from the beginning of this game, it was a lot of that sort of, oh, we've got the ball, I'm just going to kick it long and hope somebody's there. Or like, I know somebody's supposed to be there. And it never felt like everybody was on the same page and like people knew what they were supposed to do.
And maybe there's a chance that Unai Emery, I mean, it seems like he knows nothing about soccer after this result. He's still Unai Emery. Right?
Yeah, of course.
He's still a very smart, very good coach. You called PSG expensive Sevilla.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so you think of that as one of the most tactically sound teams of the last few years. I think if PSG had managed to ride out the first 20 minutes in this deep defensive
100%.
thing, you would have seen him adapt the game a little bit and it would have been a little different. The problem is, and this is where I want to get into the goals, the problem is that Barcelona score after 4 minutes?
3 minutes.
3 minutes, yeah. The fact that Barcelona score early is that the initial nerves turn into like full-on breakdown.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think those first couple minutes, you have like that Barcelona attack coming at you. You know all the names that are in that team. We've already listed them. They're very, very good. And so I think it is kind of a new approach for PSG. They're in that 4-5-1. It's not the high press that it was in that first leg.
Yeah,
and
the first leg, they took it to Barcelona, and that's why it's 4-0.
Yeah, and so in this situation, they're sitting back, and they're just kind of inviting wave after wave of attack, but you can just see the gaps forming. It's not that like Barcelona attack and it crashes upon this like this beachhead, this like concrete wall that knocks it back, and then they just can't find their way through.
It should have been a Brazilian beachhead that knocked it back.
Yeah, instead it's
a Brazilian beachhead that heads it straight up in the air.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's exactly what happens. Is on that first goal, it's a Suarez flicked on header. It's incredibly like good placement and awareness from Suarez because it's chaos in the box. He flicks it over Trapp into the back of the net.
He essentially, if you watch this again, he's quite close to Trapp, right?
Yep.
The PSG keeper, Suarez. And he kind of very cleverly lobs the keeper with his head facing in the wrong direction.
Right.
That is absolute calm under pressure versus the absolute panic that is happening in the PSG defence. I want to point out that the reason this sort of chance is created is a relatively routine cross into the box is headed straight up into the air by Marquinhos.
Right.
That is not what quality centre-backs do.
And then he tries to make up for it, but so too do Matuidi and Verratti. So you have three players trying to contest this loose ball. And this is where...
That's why it happens in the first place. It's Matuidi, Verratti and Marquinhos all kind of jump for the ball. And that's why Marquinhos can't get a clean header.
Right. But then it comes down and you've still got all those guys in the box and no one quite knows what to do. And in the end, I think you spotted that what happens is the ball bounces and then comes off Verratti's knee.
Yep.
That's what sends it towards PSG's goal.
Yep.
And that's why Suarez, and I think we talked about this as well off air, his ability just to react in a half second and his just ability to read things so quickly is very much on display here because that ball comes at him. He's able to adjust. He's able to know where Trapp is. He's able to know where he is in relation to the goal with his back to goal, how much he needs to flick it. It's incredibly well done from Suarez to put that in and really put this game on its head. You
were talking about you want to do some sort of reaction test with Luis Suarez.
Well, just because I've played forward and I know it's really hard to be able to time your run to stay onside. And Suarez, not only does he stay onside, he starts offside. And he knows exactly when to step so that he's on, but that it completely throws off the defense. He does it every single time.
And to be clear, not in this goal, that's not what he's doing, but it's an example of his reactions, which is what he used to get this header in. When he didn't know that chance was coming. He didn't know the angle of Verratti's knee and how that ball was going to bounce.
Yeah, no, and I mean, and so that immediately sets Barcelona up to feel like, wait, this is possible. We've got 87 more minutes, and we can score with ease, apparently.
And you could see PSG defenders also think, oh no, this is possible.
Yeah. and it's...
C'est possible.
Yeah, and it's funny because, well, first of all, I don't think you're wrong. I think that you can see it on... Like, there was... Bill Simmons has the famous joke about the Manning brothers, that the Manning brothers all have the Manning face, that when things are going wrong, they do not hide it. It becomes very obvious that they feel like the game is slipping away. And you could see that, I mean, instantly on Unai Emery's face, on Marquinhos' face.
Trapp as well. Marquinhos' feet as well.
Yeah, true. But you could just see every single PSG player just instantly like, uh-oh. And when you're at 4-0 up, okay, it's 4-1, you're still up 4-1. You should have that confidence. But you can just see that all of them are like, oh no, is this are we going to be the ones who let this happen?
Yep.
And when you have that approach, it doesn't help you settle at all, to your point, that it takes those like first 15 minutes for PSG to really remember like, oh right, we have a kind of game plan that we're trying to execute.
Right. But the whole time, Barcelona have what I would call their let me at them face. It's not just that they are more direct than usual in terms of their passing, right? They will take some risks. It's also that they are sort of... I know there's a look in the eye that you see. They are almost like scraping the floor with their foot like a bull, ready to go, ready to charge and press. They're just focused on doing it. Let me at them.
And it's another thing that we talked about that I don't fully understand how Barcelona do this. But we've both played on teams where people get frustrated. The ref doesn't give you the call. You think you
names?
Yeah, naming no names. But the referee doesn't make the call you think he should have, or you don't. The throw-in goes the wrong way, corner kick goes the wrong way. People start to get agitated. People get in the ref's face, and we actively on the team that we manage together. Like, don't let players get in the referee's face because we think it ruins your sort of collective momentum. That once you start getting distracted by getting in the referee's face, you're not focused on the game.
Here's my theory. One, you don't get any more decisions go your way. You possibly get decisions go against you because now the ref hates you. And B, it also takes your focus off of the game. Like you're arguing with the ref, a ball could go over your head that you're supposed to beat.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't understand how Barcelona don't have that happen because they were doing kind of the standard Barcelona thing that a lot of people get frustrated with them for, where they don't get a call, somebody's in their face. They do get a call, someone is still in his face. And I mean, even on the late penalty, which Barcelona get, Arda Turan is still yelling at the referee about something, and like it's
dude, let him take the penalty. You have limited time here.
And don't get me wrong, I as a neutral find it really frustrating because I think it does does play a part in kind of influencing things a little bit. That if you're constantly complaining, if you're constantly feeling aggrieved, maybe that referee remembers it negatively sometimes, but maybe they're also like, okay, there's 100,000 people here who are very mad at me, and all the players are on the field. Okay, maybe that was a foul. And so it's frustrating, but I still don't understand how Barcelona players can have that switch where yelling at the referee, back into the game fully and completely dedicated, and it doesn't bleed into.
Maybe they practice it.
They must, because I have to believe, if you'll indulge me, like I have to believe that if I'm in the referee's face and you tell me to calm down and I think I'm in the right, that I would probably turn and be like, I'm right here. Like he should have made that call. And then
that literally happened last season.
But then it transitions into, and I don't think it actually did in this case, but it oftentimes transitions into one player yelling at the referee, and then they turn and start yelling at their teammates, and it becomes this kind of destructive force. Doesn't happen here.
We scored a minute later, so
that's fine. But it doesn't. I'm glad to see that you haven't held on to things. But it doesn't happen with Barcelona. It just seems like they can get in the referee's face, and everyone kind of knows that that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And let's continue to play. We'll go right back into game mode.
And I really think, I don't really think this, but it is kind of as if they practice where, okay, now everyone will yell at the ref, and then Enrique blows a whistle, and so back to the game, back to the game.
You know? No, but I think that goes back to your point. I think that's how we got to it, is that they do have that sort of let me at them.
Game face.
Yeah, we got let's transition that or let's funnel that frustration into aggression.
Yes,
and you saw
absolutely.
that here. And there's two more moments that I think very much emphasize the things that we saw that went right for Barcelona and wrong for PSG in this game. And one of the things that I think you pointed out was to the aggressiveness in not just in the way they were tackling and the way they were pursuing PSG, but the way Barcelona were playing. It's something that you noticed with Busquets.
Yeah, so this is what I hinted at this at the top of the show. Busquets always plays the way he's facing. He's the classic keep the ball moving, simple pass, keep possession guy.
Yeah.
There was a moment in the first half, I believe, where Busquets has the option of a simple pass, right?
Yep.
He can go to, I believe, Mascherano, he can go to Iniesta, but instead, I think he does almost, I think it's 1.5 circles, looking for a more aggressive pass.
Yeah.
And in the end, he tries to split two defenders to get it wide to Rafinha. The ball doesn't even make it, it's intercepted by PSG, right?
Yeah.
But then Barcelona win it back straight away.
Right.
So it's instead of the simple pass, which maybe worked in 2009, they're going for the let's make something happen pass every time for 90 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
And the moment that I want to talk about, it happens actually after the second goal, but it still applies, is one thing that worked really well for PSG in that first leg was that when Barcelona would have the ball with Ter Stegen on a goal kick, or maybe the ball would go back to him, he would collect it and then try to play it out short. PSG would send those front three attackers. They started in a 4-5-1. They transitioned to a 4-3-3, I believe, at halftime. But maybe even before that, they started to adjust where they had those front three attackers up on the 18-yard box. And in that first leg, the idea was you cut out all those passing options, and if Barcelona try to force that pass through, you have people there to cover, or you force them into kicking it long, and then it's a 50-50 ball. In this case, in the 41st minute, PSG tried to do that, and Edinson Cavani just decided to go pressure Ter Stegen, who took one touch around him, passed it to Piqué. Piqué turned and played a 50-yard ball down the field. And so they're still able to play the long ball and get it kind of into that direct attack, but they're doing so by bypassing that first wave of pressure. And so even there, it was PSG kind of failing to execute, and Barcelona benefiting from that, but then still being incredibly aggressive in getting the ball forward and trying to make something happen.
Right, and that aggressive passing from Barcelona is pretty much how the second goal came about.
Right.
The much-needed second goal, because it was 1-0 for a little while, right?
Yeah, until the 40th minute.
Yeah, so this is the own goal from Kazawa.
Yeah.
I kind of felt bad for him because it's not
I 100%
really
feel bad for him.
his fault.
Nope.
It's kind of Marquinhos' fault. It's kind of Verratti's fault. So the guys who are responsible for the first goal are also kind of responsible for the second goal.
I would say it's kind of Verratti's fault, and it's very much Marquinhos' fault. But yeah, let's get to it.
And yet it's Kazawa's name on the score sheet with the OG.
It seems so unfair because that's what people will remember. Be like, an own goal from him. And that's what I saw before we rewatched this game. Having rewatched it, there's some other people at fault.
It's also in a positive way Iniesta's fault.
And I was going to say there's other people to credit here. So it's that direct ball from Umtiti into Iniesta.
Yeah, and originally into Iniesta. Yeah, shouldn't have forced that into Iniesta.
Yeah, and I think we couldn't hear it, but our guess is that Iniesta gets a shout from Luis Suarez.
Yes.
So he does a very good job of looking like he's going to receive it, but then kind of stepping across and making it really difficult for Verratti to intercept.
And Verratti tries though, right? Maybe tries too hard and just misses it entirely.
Misses it entirely, and in missing it, overcommits and is now on the wrong side of Andres Iniesta. Yep. That ball goes to Luis Suarez, who settles, plays in.
There is no right side of Iniesta.
That's true, but Suarez settles, plays in Iniesta, who is now unmarked by the man who should have been marking him.
Yeah.
So Marquinhos has to then try to make a play on this ball.
I mean, he's supposed to, but he doesn't.
And should have been able to. And I think this is an example where if it's a regular game, if it's the first leg and it's the score that it is, I don't think he panics.
Nope.
But because of all that pressure, I think a normally veteran, calm center back, or relatively calm center back, makes a series of bad decisions.
Yep. So if you haven't seen this is when Suarez basically turns and just lofts the ball over Marquinhos' head for Iniesta to run on to sort of the left-hand side of the goal. And I would argue, as a defender, as the ball is lofted, Marquinhos can just jump. He doesn't even have to jump high. He can just head that out for a corner or a throw-in. After the ball bounces, he can just head it behind for a corner kick, maybe even swing his leg at it and put it around. But instead he does neither. He just kind of gets trapped in this whole indecision thing. Maybe he's trying to shepherd the ball over the line.
I think he absolutely thinks
at some point.
I think he thinks it's going out of bounds, and so he tries to shepherd it over.
And I'm convinced that all this indecision is part of what's gone wrong with PSG in terms of them setting themselves up too defensively, too nervous, too panicky, and that's what causes him to just not be able to make a decision. Iniesta has no trouble making a decision. Iniesta decides, I'm going to spin and backheel this into the 6-yard box.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that comes from Verratti over-pursuing so that he's not then tracking Iniesta. So then it's suddenly Marquinhos' responsibility to defend this chipped ball from Suarez, but also mark out Iniesta. And I think in that moment, he's also like, oh, it's going to go to bounds, that's fine, I'll shepherd it. Oh, it's not going to go to bounds, now I'll try to touch it and clear it. And I think he just kind of never quite makes a full decision. And as you said, Iniesta does.
If you're confident and decisive, you just head it out. It's gone, done. Dealt with.
Or you backheel it without looking, really, which Iniesta does. And then this is where it goes off Kurzawa's knee, because I think he has no idea that Iniesta is even going to try this. And so he's in the process of trying to swing to clear the ball. Doesn't even get halfway through because that's why it goes off his knee.
Yeah, so he doesn't even get a foot to it, right? And Rafinha is in there. I think Rafinha is Iniesta's intended target. Yeah. Because I don't want to think Iniesta ever played, even with his back to goal and a back heel that he bounces into the floor, I don't think Iniesta ever plays a pass just that's a hit and hope.
No.
It's always to someone.
No, or at the very least, it's the awareness of...
It's Kurzawa's knee.
There's too... Yeah. I think it's an awareness of there's a ton of people in the box. I know there's some players there, and I know that no one is going to expect this. And if I do this, it might come off.
Something
and it sure does.
Could happen. That makes it 2-0. And then, as soon as it's 2-0, that's when PSG do what you were talking about earlier, which is like, oh, maybe all this backing off is not really working for us. Let's go and do what we did in the first leg. Let's go and try and press them. But to what you said, they didn't do a good job of it. And I would argue the reason they didn't do a good job of it is because that's not what they went out there to do. It's not a thing, pressing like that, like they did in the first leg, is not a thing you can just do.
Nope.
Right? It's something you have to very carefully plan for every angle, every eventuality. Every pass has to be cut off. If one pass is not cut off, then Busquets charges up the field.
And maybe this is a fundamental, maybe I understand the game wrong, but in my mind it's like anything where if I'm playing you in chess and I have this one move that I do that works really well, the next time we play you are going to remember that and try to defend against that. And so I would even imagine that when PSG then say, never mind, we're scrapping that, we're going to go back to that pressing system.
Back to plan A.
Barcelona, who were defeated by that pressing system in the first leg, almost certainly have a defense against that pressing system. So as soon as they do that, then Barcelona are like, well, okay, they're doing what we wanted them to do. Now use that attack.
Well, it's also a mental thing, right? Because when they did it to Barcelona in the first leg, Barcelona were the ones that were suddenly nervous and couldn't play at the back because they're used to having more time to bring it forward. This time they're already got their tails up, they're ready to go. They're not going to be scared of a little press. They're just going to dribble through it.
And this is where, if I'm Unai Emery, I have a panic attack because sitting back doesn't work, pressing doesn't seem to be working. Luckily, it's the 40th minute, and you're only 2-0 down, I guess, so you've at least got halftime.
So they do make it to halftime. Much more excitement to come on the second half of the Total Soccer Show, as there was in this game. We won't save all the excitement for the last 5 minutes of the show, like Barcelona did.
Dramatic revelations at the very end.
But since it's halftime...
Tune in next time.
Since it's halftime, we should let you know that this episode of the Total Soccer Show is sponsored by Fucci, makers of the excellent Fucci rebounder.
Absolutely. Fucci is the highly engineered soccer rebounder that combines squash and soccer, so you can kick the ball, rebound, work on your skills, play with friends, and most importantly, I think if you're using it in a pregame situation in early March, keep warm. And that's what we found when we did it at RFK.
It was the warmest we were all day.
It's
right?
a good time to run around, yeah.
We nearly got to freezing.
We did.
And normally for our Fuji ads, we try to pick out like a rebound player or a rebound team, like some team that's made some sort of big bounce back in some way.
Who could it be?
I can't really think of anyone for today. Maybe Borussia Dortmund. They were 1-0 down in that first leg against Benfica.
Yeah, I think that's the obvious one.
Yeah. Maybe Arsenal. They were 5-1 down in the first leg. Then Walcott scored early at the Emirates. It looked on for a little while.
Oh, let's not pour any more salt into the already gaping wound.
But it is almost as if the Luis Enrique Barcelona come back with, as you talked about earlier, the Luis Enrique like saying I'm leaving at the end of the season, and then results and performances suddenly turn around. It's almost as if the universe wants to mock Arsene Wenger, make him feel bad, and they're using Enrique as their tool.
It seems that way. And speaking of useful tools to use, you can use Fuji, and you can get one at a decent discount.
Yes, you can. The Total Soccer Show discount for Fuji. If you go to www.playfuji.com, spelled Futchi, if you use the discount code TSS2017, you will get the biggest discount in all of America. Just as Barcelona's was the biggest rebound in Champions League history, this is the biggest discount in Fuji history. TSS 2017 will get you the biggest discount possible on a Fuji rebounder.
There we are. So, with that said, we're out of halftime. We're back to the second half of PSG Barcelona, Barcelona PSG, and it starts with PSG kicking off and showing signs of positive intent.
They go one more time with that press, don't they? Don't they go like they send the sort of three forwards up to try and break it, and it lasts. I mean, it doesn't last long.
They attack straight from kickoff. They basically force a corner. It's a little bit of a contentious corner because it looks like maybe it doesn't go all the way out, but the ref says it does. And it kind of is like, oh, okay, signs of life. They're going to go at Barcelona. Things go, oh, no, they conceded a penalty.
So which of the penalties is this? This is
the Meunier slide and attempting to head Neymar, or Neymar attempting to run into Meunier's head, depending on your perspective.
This is kind of the weirdest penalty of the night. I think the Suarez one later on is the most contentious.
Yes.
This is the weirdest, right? So this is, as I remember it, it's Neymar running around the outside on the left. Iniesta plays like a flicked outside of the foot pass, like behind Meunier for Neymar to run onto. Meunier slips, like falls head first, and then his head essentially slide tackles Neymar's feet, and Neymar goes down. At least that's Neymar's version.
And it's yes, exactly. And really, that was not the referee's version at first. And this is where I think there's been so much criticism about this referee. Marca are reporting that he won't be allowed to referee any more Champions League games this season.
Is Marca the Real Madrid paper?
That is the Real Madrid paper. Germany have come out, like the German FA has come out and said that they back their referee because this referee was German. And I would say that this is an example of
their
where
logic is sound.
I think that there are reasons to be frustrated. Yeah, there are reasons to be frustrated with this referee. We'll talk about those in a second. This is not one of those. And I've seen people say, like, can you believe he awarded this penalty? Like, it was Meunier trying to play the ball, and Neymar looked for that contact. And the reality is he didn't award that penalty. He said no foul. Then he went over and talked with the end line official? I think he wrote down the actual
behind the goal official?
Yeah. Goes and talks
extra
to
official.
There it is. Goes and talks to the extra official whose job it is to make these types of decisions.
Yep.
And he awards the penalty.
Okay, so do you think, and do I think, I guess, but it's me asking you, do you think the extra official got this right? Was this a penalty kick?
It was.
Yeah?
It is one of those...
You don't sound confident.
Okay, if you asked me if I watched that play live and you said, is that a penalty? I say absolutely yes.
Okay.
When you watch it 1,000 times on replay and you see all of the little different...
We only watched it 500.
We watched it so many times. But you see all of the different variations. You see Neymar does kind of come inside. Like, he probably maybe could avoid Meunier, but it's tough to say when you're running at full speed. But there's definitely a collision there. Maybe he could have hurdled Meunier. Maybe Meunier shouldn't have, not known that Neymar was running and lost his footing.
I'll say Neymar shouldn't have to hurdle Meunier, right?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily your job to hurdle... think of it like this way.
Yeah, I agree.
If that was Meunier's feet, right, he did fall over, right? He stumbled, fell over. The reason he stumbled is probably because he was like focused on Iniesta. He was in a bit of a defensive crouch. And when that weird pass from Iniesta, part of this is the genius of the pass from Iniesta, right? He suddenly has to jump up, turn the other direction, and chase Neymar down, and then he loses his footing and falls forward, right?
Yep.
So he falls forward with his head. If he'd fallen forward with his feet and Neymar had tripped over his feet, you'd just say, that's a clumsy tackle, it's unfortunate, but it's a penalty kick. And I think just because it's his head doesn't make it any different.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And so in this situation, I think it is a justified penalty, which Messi steps up and buries.
But it's Neymar making sure that he making sure that he sort of makes the most of it.
Oh yeah, he stays down as though he's been shot.
And he also like goes down in a kind of semi-dramatic kind of style.
Yes, he does. This is also the first of several moments in this game that make me feel like Neymar is a Jedi. Because he is maybe 8 yards away from Iniesta when this ball is played. Yeah. Iniesta is telegraphing that he is trying to split the two defenders and play Neymar in. And Neymar, I think, only as Iniesta is playing that ball, is like, oh, right, that's what you want, and somehow closes that distance in a way that does not seem humanly possible.
Yeah.
Like he gets around Meunier.
Possible?
Yeah, exactly. Well, Jedis can run at like super fast speed, apparently, according to the Phantom Menace. And so I think even that maybe is part of the reason why I'm more inclined to say it's a penalty, because I think Meunier is so surprised by that run that he's scrambling, he falls. Neymar is running at such a high velocity that if there is any contact, or if you have to adjust your run in any way, it's going to lead to falling down.
We did have someone tweet at us, I believe, an image of this tackle, I guess you call it, from Meunier, with the phrase UEFA-Lona, implying that Barcelona tend to get favourable decisions in the UEFA Champions League.
Yeah. Well, yes. And I think part of that is because I wish the camera... I know why they did, but I wish the producers of this game hadn't cut away at that exact moment. Because what happens... Neymar goes down and you have that kind of, the usual camera angle, and you see that extra official leaning all the way over the line, like in a very active stance. And I think if they hadn't cut away... Because Suarez is on the other side of the goal when this happens, and when the camera cuts back, he's standing next to that extra official. And I have to believe that, yes, Barcelona are doing Barcelona things, but I have to believe that he indicates it's definitely a penalty. Because you see Suarez go over there, and I forget there's another Barca player there, and then they all start frantically gesturing for the official to come across. Because I think he said, yes, it's a penalty.
Right, so it's like if mum says no, you can't go to the movies. Dad says yes. You all gather around Dad.
Yeah, but but
Dad says.
But because of the way it looks, exactly. But because of the way it looks like it cuts back to the kids convincing the dad to say yes, when in actuality the dad said yes, and then the kids are still talking to him. Yeah, basically.
I have an idea of this Barcelona constantly getting decisions. I actually think this is a Neymar Suarez thing, where they're both just very good at making the most of possible penalty kick situations. They make sure that they get it.
I mean, and for this penalty, for the later penalty, Suarez gets the yellow for diving. Neymar a couple different times goes down, looks to the official, no call given. So I think they're both looking for it.
Yeah,
sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I would not disagree with that at all. But what I'm saying is, there's no grand UEFA conspiracy to make sure that Barcelona go through.
No,
right?
No, nor I'll add at this point, because I feel like we are defending Barcelona, and it's one of those frustrating situations when you're defending a club. I have no rooting interest in this club, nor do you, but I do imagine there are going to be people out there who are like, oh, you're just Barcelona apologists or whatever. And the reality is we don't really care, but it's more about, like, we try to talk about the things that we see in the way that we see them honestly.
Yeah, we try to be impartial and figure out why things happened, as opposed to making the case for our favourite team. Right?
Yeah, and
until Wolves make the round of 16 Champions League.
Then we'll both be on their side. Yeah. And I say that mostly because I think we both have the same idea on the later penalty, and I think it goes against the grain. But more on that in a moment, because first, it's 3-0.
Yep.
Things are looking good. It seems like it's in the bag. And then, as many people
not
said...
in the bag. They still need 2 more goals.
Yeah, but it seems, as many people said on Twitter, on social media, then Edinson Cavani gets the backbreaker. It's game over.
Game over. 3. So they have the away goal. That means that Barcelona will need to score 6. They'll need 3 more goals after Cavani's goal. Right. Do we need to break down Cavani's goal or not?
We only need to break it down from one key point, which is that this is a relatively smash and grab goal. It's a free kick. It's like a professional foul from Rakitic. It's taken quickly by Verratti, and it's settled. It's played back, and it's a goal. But it's not as though PSG had found a rhythm, established possession, gotten a goal through slow build-up. It was quick free kick. Cavani runs in, smashes home 3-1.
Yeah, and I would even say Barcelona did not do a great job defending, because they just assumed that they haven't offered any threat. Let's get this over with. Give us the goal kick. We'll get back to attacking.
Yeah.
Instead, they score. Yeah, and someone should have marked Cavani if they were taking this seriously.
Yeah. And I think if Cavani were taking this game more seriously, maybe he puts this game completely out of reach a few minutes later.
Is it a minute after that he has the one-on-one chance where Ter Stegen saves with his feet?
Because
that was the game.
Much like PSG were rattled in the very beginning, Barcelona I think were rattled after this goal, and there are opportunities for PSG. I think just before it, Cavani had hit a post, and then here he's in on the breakaway. Really should have finished, but takes a bad first touch, doesn't set himself up, and ends up allowing Ter Stegen to make a good save.
In hindsight, the whole game hinges on Cavani not being able to finish past Ter Stegen making the foot save, and Barca is still in with a chance. All right, then what? So that was like the 64th minute or so? Right? Okay, there's still some time to go, but Barca need 3 goals to make this happen. Before we get to those goals, I think the smart changes that Luis Enrique makes are counterintuitive if you're just watching and thinking we need to keep our best players in.
Absolutely.
Because Iniesta comes out, Rakitic comes out, and Rafinha comes out. Okay, you wouldn't
the Rafinha one is fine,
right. But essentially what they've done is taken 3 of the 4 midfielders out and just put fresh legs in there so that Barca could keep up this pace of just driving. Oh, they've got the ball back, let's win it back off them and drive.
Absolutely.
Right? So you just keep it fresh, keep it energetic so that they are like overpowering them in the final 10 minutes.
And if anything, if you're going like full all-out attack, all energy, all dynamism, then Andres Iniesta, especially given that he hasn't been able to see out many games this season, doesn't really fit that. You know who does? Arda Turan.
Yes,
and
with
that's
the
who comes
fire
on.
in his eyes.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, he's we talked about this watching him, right? He's exactly the guy you want if you're chasing an impossible cause. Get Arda in there because he'll try no matter what the score is.
Yes, he will. So I'm going to fast forward to like the latter stages of the 90 minutes.
Yeah.
There is one other event that we should probably talk about. We'll get to that in a little bit afterwards because let's talk some goals here.
Yeah, okay.
And let's start with that Neymar free kick.
Okay, I mean, I don't even know what to say about it except that maybe Trapp is not to blame because the free kick is perfect.
I think really that's it. And I think the obvious like color commentator thought on that one is, he kind of didn't dive, he's just shuffled over.
Yeah.
If you dive, then you show enthusiasm, you show an attempt. I think even if Trapp dives, he's not saving that. That is inch perfect, like postage stamp, top corner, hit with such pace and such dip.
That's where Pav puts the postage stamp.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You know, he's never had a letter successfully delivered.
That makes sense. Now we understand why. But I mean, Neymar has no business hitting that from the angle he's at because he's like near the corner of the box. From the distance, it's really tough to get that up and down over the wall. He pulls off both of those feats quite successfully.
So it's up and down in a way that shouldn't be possible and a tight curve in a way that possibly shouldn't be possible. And it's not the last beautiful ball that Neymar plays.
No, it is not.
This day. But that goal is what makes it all possible again. What is that, the 87th or so? Something like that?
88th minute is when the foul's 87th, goal is 88.
Okay, so it's still not that possible, but it's not mathematically impossible.
It is not.
And then we get the Suarez penalty kick. Messi takes it, right? But, sorry, Neymar takes it because he's on fire, apparently. He's got NBA Jam fire. That's why Neymar takes it.
Apparently he also bet his teammates before this game that he would score 2 goals.
Is that
so maybe
right?
that's also part of the reason why.
Is that true?
Yep.
Oh, Suarez wins the penalty kick. Okay, so I've forgotten who plays the ball over the top. It's Messi plays the ball over the top.
Left unmarked at midfield, because that's what you want to do.
It's because they're tracking backwards and backwards. Because PSG, again, are going into... The way they started the game, just all sat back in this like terrified turtle shell, is how they ended the game as well.
That's such a good statement.
It didn't work for them to start with. It didn't work for them to end with. Nope. I suggest Unai Emery will never do this again.
Nope. Yep. And so they're chaotic. They're scrambling. Yeah. It allows Messi to take that touch, pick out a spot, play that ball in. And again, because I think there's a scramble, PSG are kind of uncertain about who needs to be doing what. And in that scramble, Marquinhos makes a play on the ball, but more so makes a play on Luis Suarez.
Yeah. So he concedes a penalty kick, and it looks on first through 20th viewing that he concedes the penalty kick by putting his arm across Suarez and holding him back enough to convince the referee that he held him back, and Suarez even grabs his throat and his face and everything in that area to suggest that some horrible throat crime is being committed here. But that was not the foul.
No, it was not.
So before we get on to what the foul actually was, the contact that Marquinhos made on Suarez, putting his arm across and then quickly removing it, would that have been enough to be a penalty kick for you?
No.
Because I've been 50-50 about it, because you can't put your arm across someone, but also it's not really there long enough to be like a barrier.
No, to the extent that I think earlier in the game, I can't remember who it was, so I apologize, but I think there was a similar incident when there were like hands to the chest and then it was given the other way. It was given as a dive. Yeah. And the commentators were like, that's not enough to make a player go down.
Okay.
So I don't think that would have been enough here, but I think it's because of a variety of things. Do you want to get into it now?
Yeah, go for
it. So it's essentially there's the arm across. It's the fact that Marquinhos, because he's scrambling, isn't looking at the ball. He's just watching Luis Suarez. So it looks like to the referee watching, it looks like he's made a mistake. He's caught out of position. Now he's trying to make up. Now he's putting that arm across to slow him up. Now he's impeding the run. Then he's kind of running through him. Yeah. And that, I think, is the key component there, because that does actually happen. Suarez is kind of making a bended run towards the goal. Marquinhos is trying to close that gap by making a direct run. And I think because of that, we've talked about this before, Suarez runs in front of him. And so it's always going to be contact, and it's always going to look like the defender is making that contact.
This is the Nagby trick
exactly.
from MLS every weekend. Yeah. And what actually does happen is Marquinhos puts, I believe, his thigh or his knee.
Left knee into Suarez's right calf.
Yeah, and so essentially you're tripping him from behind, but it's kind of imperceptible. And then
is.
Suarez, being Suarez, manages to go down from that and go down temporarily holding his face and go down holding his throat, and then makes this like crazy gesture as if he's strangling himself. So he's just selling, like I said earlier, Suarez and Neymar both great at selling it. So even when they get a penalty kick, they make sure it's definitely a penalty kick.
And I don't really know how to say this other than to say that like it's okay to really dislike Luis Suarez for really like acting and making this seem worse than it is.
Yeah.
But it's also okay to say it's a penalty because there is contact, because Marquinhos isn't really looking at the ball. He's playing the man. He makes contact with the man goes down in the box at the Camp Nou. It's going to be a penalty.
And you've also got to be a respecter of the dark arts of Luis Suarez.
Yes.
I don't mean like necessarily cheating dark arts. I mean like the clever stuff that he does like this to make sure that he wins penalties. All right, so that makes it 5-1. The board goes up. There are, 5 minutes of added time. Barcelona say, okay, Gerard Piqué, you go up front. Ter Stegen, we're going to send you up front because why not? And then they just push everything forward. But here's my favourite thing. Even though they push everybody forward, this is an English team. They are just like lumping the ball into the box. Like the quality of the cross doesn't matter. Just get it in the mixer, as we talked about on terminology. Barcelona still sort of pass it up from the back and try to make a really good angle. Because there's always a cross going in the end, but it's going to be the best possible cross you can deliver, not just lump it in and cross our fingers.
That's maybe, I'm glad we waited this long to get to this. That's the key distinction. Thank you for making that point, which is that Barcelona are trying to get the ball forward, trying to create goals, trying to get shots, but they're not just panicking and like, I'm near the goal, I'll shoot. It is definitely get the ball forward, find the right pass, then find the right ball in or find the right shot. And it is that like extra little step that makes all the difference. And clearly sending Ter Stegen forward also makes a pretty big difference.
So weirdly it is, so Ter Stegen's in the bus, I think the ball is cleared. Someone is, Arda is tackled. There's a possible PSG break on. Ter Stegen does a reverse sweeper move. So he's like way over the halfway line, closer to the penalty box. He runs to the halfway line and sort of tackles and collects the ball, takes a foul, wins a free kick.
He basically, and it could have been a red card for Verratti, who had just gotten a yellow, because basically Ter Stegen, it's kind of a loose ball because of that like I don't know, scrum between Verratti and Thuram. And Ter Stegen like runs around, takes the ball, passes it out wide. Verratti is coming in to try to make a play on that ball. He doesn't get there in time, but he does get Ter Stegen. That could have been a yellow card, but it's a free kick. I think the referee maybe doesn't do it just because time is ticking. It's time to get it going.
So Ter Stegen is one of the heroes here. Absolutely. Okay, then the free kick is taken, I believe, by Neymar, cleared back out. Neymar gets it again. Neymar is faced with Verratti, who's come out to pressure him. It is like, there are like 10 seconds left here, maybe 15 seconds, something like that. It's like 94 something.
Pretty much the last kick of the game,
So Neymar shapes as if he's going to cross. Verratti buys it, because why wouldn't you cross with 10 seconds to go? You'd be thinking, just get it in the box. Instead, Neymar cuts with his right foot, crosses body onto his left foot, and then plays what is one of the greatest chips I've ever seen. So I saw it live, and
this is Jedi move number 2.
Sergio Roberto like puts his leg out and finishes it, right? When I saw the replay, I expected this to be a sort of floated, chipped ball that sort of lands comfortably. Instead, it's got this like weird drive to it. You know what I mean? It's like it's been hit off a tee, but it's also got backspin on it, and it doesn't go too high and doesn't go too low.
Exactly,
and I think I want to say that it's perfect.
It is absolutely perfect. It is inch perfect because it's in a position.
Spiral, right? You can see the ball spiraling.
You can see the backspin on it that holds it up so that it does like have a quick velocity to it that then somehow like slows up midair, but it's enough that Trapp can't come to collect the ball, that basically all the PSG players are stuck trying to hold their line. And again, Marquinhos is the one who's slow to step.
Because Marquinhos bought the initial fake cross. Marquinhos drops, I think, then because he thinks he can try and clear it. Then he's way too deep, and he's trying to step back even as Neymar is playing the actual ball in, but it's too late. He's still playing Sergio Roberto onside.
And maybe RA is as well, but it's obviously Marquinhos is the one.
Marquinhos seals the deal.
Yes. and so it's Sergio Roberto able to get on the end of that one, and it is just an inch perfect ball from Neymar, and it's a great finish from Sergio Roberto sliding, and then everybody runs off to celebrate.
And this is all about composure, right? Like we talked about, the not forcing the ball in the box, the composure of Neymar, because that ball, chipping that ball in, that could this game could easily end with Neymar chipping the ball to Trapp. He catches it, the whistle goes. He would look a fool. It would be the equivalent of a Panenka, and everyone would be like, why doesn't he just cross it? Neymar has the calm and the smarts and I think the trust in his own ability to play that ball.
Yeah, I think Yeah, it was pretty much on display there. And I think then you get the final whistle basically immediately after the restart, and everyone's
still have one, like, loft the ball forward.
Kind of.
Goes.
Yeah. And then I think with all that said, I do sort of still give credit to Unai Emery, because I know after the match people were very upset about the penalty call. Mm-hmm. People were very upset about the tackle on Angel Di Maria by Javier Mascherano, which is maybe the one other thing that the referee did get wrong.
So we didn't get replays on the TV because I think immediately Barcelona went up, and maybe Suarez, I think, may have won the penalty soon afterwards.
I think it was the free kick.
Oh, okay. So they just madness started. There's never time for a replay.
Yeah.
And actually, to be fair to TV producers, there was no time for a replay.
Yeah, it was 85th minute that one happens. The ball stays in possession until the 87th minute when Neymar's fouled.
So, but we went on Reddit and somebody had found a different TV station had like played some replays, maybe post game, maybe. We watched a slow motion of it. I think it's a penalty kick.
I think it is. I think because Mascherano comes through. It's worth noting that Di Maria has gotten the shot off.
Probably.
Just about, right? Yeah. And in the American sense, I think he's just about gotten the shot off. I think in the American sense, I'm not sure. But there's definitely contact there from Mascherano on Di Maria's back foot. Mm-hmm. There is absolutely no contact on the ball from Javier Mascherano. Yeah. So his claims that he got the ball, definitely not true. Mm-hmm. And I think even if you want to say that Di Maria had kind of completed the shooting motion, you still can't slide from behind and take out a player even after they've passed the ball. Yeah. That's still a foul.
So why didn't it get called?
I think just because the referee thought the shot was gone, and maybe he thought Di Maria had like kind of slowed up to draw in that contact. I'm not really sure.
I think Mascherano pulls up a little bit, right? Because if actually Mascherano had followed through that tackle, he'd have just crushed Di Maria, right? Who's a skinny man.
Yeah. And so
but I think because he pulls up a little bit, the referee, you could argue, maybe thinks that he didn't go through with it.
Yeah. I think maybe that's what he thinks. But I think at least I would say it's definitely a penalty. And the reason why I say Unai Emery deserves credit is that after the match, he isn't saying, oh, the referee cost us this game. It was the referee's fault, because I think then he's a laughingstock. To say, oh, it was the referee that blew that one call when we lost 6-1. I think, he said, it stops with me. This is my fault. This is my error, and it will live with me. Something along those lines.
Oh, Unai Emery in trouble, job-wise?
I think so. Especially because they're not top of the league right now.
That's true. He'll see out the season, though, right? They give him a chance to try and win the league, try and beat Monaco to it. We'll see what happens.
I think it would be silly to sack him, but that said...
He's also a great coach.
He is, but when you lose like that, that will stick with him for a while. Yeah. So maybe PSG will look for other options.
Flip side, Luis Enrique, who says, I will not be with the club at the end of the season. Any chance he changes his mind on that?
I don't think so. I think there's a decent chance that the PSG throw a whole bunch of money at him.
Actually, if I remember now, Enrique's explanation was
he wants to nap.
This is draining. I want to take a year off. People forget, I think now, it's what Guardiola did, right?
Yeah.
After Barcelona, there was a whole year before he took over at Bayern.
Yeah, it's like basically...
in which they won the treble.
Even when I'm resting, I can't rest. It was something along those lines, and I need to rest.
I wonder if nights like this make it all worth it.
Maybe, but then he's probably pretty drained today. But yeah, I think Luis Enrique will probably take a year off and then come right back and manage somebody else and be a good manager.
So Borussia Dortmund through to the quarterfinals, and Barcelona through to the quarterfinals. There are still a couple more round of 16 games to go next week. If they have half the excitement of this week, we'll definitely be covering them on the Total Soccer Show.
Absolutely.
On Friday's show, we'll be doing listener questions, something to get excited about, right?
Yes,
and we've got a lot of feedback about what our MLS coverage could or should be. We've really appreciated all the suggestions. One thing we are going to do is maybe review the game between the New Boys on Sunday night. It's Minnesota hosting Atlanta. So that's in the future. All right, Taylor Rockwell, thank you for talking Champions League with me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.